Joining us now to talk about the first place Arizona Cardinals, host of the Mina Kimes podcast featuring Lenny, ESPN NFL analyst Mina Kimes joins the program. And Mina, fresh off their beatdown of Chicago, at what point are we allowed to say this Cardinal team is for real?
Now? Well, especially because they're in such a winnable division. I mean, obviously they're first place in the division, so it's not really a bold take, but they're not. It's not just first place because of opponents. They've won divisional games now. They have upset, teams that were perceived to be better than them. And I think what I was so encouraged by in this Bears win, which, we actually NFL Live, we all picked the Cardinals, and we were a little nervous about it for a second, was the performance of the defense, because I thought this was going to be one of the worst defenses in the NFL. And early on in the season, there were some pretty dismal performances, but I think that arrow is trending up. So that, to me, my hesitation with the Cardinals has never been about the offense, even though the offense has been up and down. I've always felt like the offensive ceiling was high enough to feel good about them being a playoff team, but the defense was what was holding me back. I really had low expectations for the defense coming into the year. Still issues. I'm not saying that they're a juggernaut on that side of the ball, but I think you're seeing improvement from young players in a way that should be really encouraging for Cardinals fans.
Mina, so with all that being said, what's with the 3 straight wins for this Cardinals team and 2 games at home where they haven't allowed a touchdown from the opposition? Is the defense the most impressive thing to you during this stretch, during this winning streak, or what's impressed you the most?
Oh, I mean, I don't know only about James Conner. Good Lord, that guy. What a football player he is. And he was the offense, right, against this Bears team for the most part. But yeah, I think just when you consider expectations, I mean, let me put it this way. I bet if I polled NFL fans who don't root for the Cardinals, I would get like a 5% hit rate on names in this Cardinals defense, right? Like it has to be the most quote unquote anonymous defense in the entire NFL. So to get the kind of pressure that they did against admittedly a bad Bears offensive line, but a Bears offensive line that looked fine against, say, the Jags. There's another bad defense, or a defense that, was expected to be a lot better coming into the season. I think it's really impressive. We'll see. Right now, as of this recording, you've only added Baron Browning. I was curious to see how they would augment the pass rush. You got Robinson coming back, of course, but at the very least, you've seen a level of competence that if the offense hits that ceiling, which has done sporadically this season, can make them competitive in any game.
Let's talk about the franchise quarterback, Kyler Murray, consistently top 5 in QBR this year.
Yeah.
But really, I mean, winning games that he has not been asked to put the Superman cape on, really for the first time in his career. And I think that's got to be the biggest blessing of the season, watching him conduct the offense, orchestrate it, but not be asked to throw for 3 touchdowns, 300 yards. We saw him do that the week before, Mina, against Miami. I mean, how dangerous does that make the Cardinals when Kyler Murray consistently now is, hey, every other Sunday, maybe do some stuff with your legs, but not necessarily be asked to put up gaudy numbers for this team to win?
Yeah, it's such a stark contrast from early in Kyler's career and this MVP, can we call it an MVP season, MVP half season, right? We all remember where the Cardinals were undefeated for so long, but so many of those wins, it didn't feel sustainable because so much of it was predicated on Kyler. You were doing like crazy, not just scrambling, but making crazy plays outside of structure. To see them win this way, it's funny. Like it was not a great Kyler performance. I'm, a fan of his. And the passing attack obviously took a step back from the prior week, but I feel like it has to be so encouraging to see that you can win games, dominate games, by the way, where it doesn't matter because your rushing attack is so good. And that rushing attack, by the way, against one of the better run defenses in the entire NFL in Chicago. Missing some players in the back end, I think, were meaningful in this one. But players in their secondary who were very good against the run. But the front seven was, it has really, really stonewalled a lot of good rushing attacks this year. And it feels like this Cardinals run game has just continued to pick up momentum as the season has gone along. And that, to me, is directionally very encouraging.
Yeah, we revisit that 2021 season quite a bit on this show just because the Cardinals are finally doing things they hadn't done since 2021 as far as stringing together wins at home, back-to-back victories. So it's not strange to hear that season pop up again. And obviously with the performance from Kyler Murray mixed in between of the 3-game winning streak, sandwiched in between 2 pedestrian performances was the 6-catch, 111-yard Superman performance from Marvin Harrison Jr. How are you feeling about the 4th overall pick now, 9 weeks into his NFL career?
Yeah, it's obviously been very up and down with Marv. But honestly, when you take a step back, it's actually been that way for almost all of the rookie receivers, right? Like Neighbors had that unbelievable start to the season. And then obviously he had the injury with the concussion, but there's been some ups and downs with him. I'm thinking about like watching, I understand Marv was taken 4th and Xavier Worthy was taken at the end of the 1st round, but he has really struggled in Kansas City. Coleman's been up and down as well. Odunze on the other side of the football, again, also there's been weeks where he's been really, really good and productive and weeks where he is not. And I think it's just a reminder that playing receiver in the NFL is hard, and there's a lot of it is about chemistry and usage and communication, and it's reasonable to expect some ups and downs. I still feel really good about him. I think we didn't get to talk after the last week's game, but I was so pleased to see him used in a different way. I've been begging for them to use him on crossers the entire season. So I just feel like it's not going to be linear, and there's going to be games where it looks better than others against different types of defenses that have the capacity to play him in different ways. But you can't evaluate him on one game or the other. You have to look at it over a larger sample size because he's a rookie.
I think it's easy to pigeonhole defensive head coaches in today's NFL, the Robert Salehs, the Matt Eberfluses. But, you look at this division and, give me your assessment of head coach Jonathan Ganon now, almost mid-year in season number 2. And the fact that hopefully he's been able to buck that trend a little bit where he's greater than just his defensive background.
Well, shit, Dan Quinn's having like the best season of all. And I have actually stopped trying to gauge who's going to be a good head coach because it's so hit or miss, and there seems to be nothing predictive about it, right? Like, it's great if you have a brilliant offensive play caller, and you certainly see that with a lot of the guys from the McVay tree going around the NFL. But we've also seen very unexpected resumes have success in this league. So, I remember when the Cardinals hired Gannon, and he was obviously clowned a lot for some admittedly goofball behavior that deserved to be made fun of. I was like, you know what? I'm not going to go on the record and say this is a bad hire. I'm not going to make fun of this because I've just seen it too much Dan Campbell is obviously, he's not a defensive coach, but he is the paradigm of people were really skeptical of him. And obviously he's now one of the 5 best coaches in the NFL minimum. So all of which is to say, I think he's been terrific. I think this roster has done things the right way over the last 2 years in terms of, and that's really head coach and GM, right? But how they've built this thing, I think his decision-making, I also generally agree with. I think he manages games pretty well. And, he's getting players to play above expectations, particularly on defense. And go back to what I said at the beginning about, most people don't know who any of these guys are, right? So I think he deserves a ton of credit for that.
The pew shots, explosives, that we all remember.
What was it? Taking the bus to the stadium. What was that?
He's our goofball.
It was weird, dude.
He's
a goofball. Do either of you guys watch Love Is Blind?
No.
Sadly, no.
Okay, there's a guy who looks just like Jonathan Ganon on it, and I feel like it's the most niche comp, and every time I see it, I just lose it. But anyways, yeah, he is. He also has kind of like a touch of Adam Gase eyes, and I think that is also adds to it. Or sometimes it cuts to him, I'm like, eee. But it seems to be working.
But once you see behind kind of the goofball facade, it's authentic. You're seeing buy-in from the players, from the coaches, even his coaching staff. We had a moment today, Nick Rawlis, defensive coordinator, he's talking about he named his newborn son, his middle name's Kazir White. You're just seeing this is just one big happy family.
It's Kazir, not Kazir White. It's Kazir.
Well, when they told that story on the broadcast, because I had volume on this game, I can't remember who it was. It was, I think, Ian Eagle, right? It was Eagle. And anyways, I had the sound on, and they were like, Nick Rawlis, he's had a busy morning. His wife had a child, Nicholas Kaiser Rawlis. Yeah. And then he stopped the story, and I was like, so he just named, I was like, is that just the craziest coincidence ever? I assumed it was. but and then they picked up the story on the other side. He's like, and obviously that's after Kaiser White, who's a linebacker he's known for a while. He was very good in this game, by the way. I look, that Rallis was people who like football nerds got a lot of not shit, but like there was a point sometime during the offseason where we're all like, so this Cardinals defense is doing a lot of wacky shit and like kind of interesting because they just were, I think, and but some of us got pushback, which is like, well, yeah, but they sucked. It's like, yeah, but they're sucking in an interesting way. Yeah. And I think now you're starting to see the fruits of that a little bit, and they can be a little bit more. Although I will say I love some of the pressures he threw up in this. Some really they really had the Bears offensive line out of sorts with some of their pressures.
Are we ready to make up with Drew Petzing after back-to-back, 28-plus point games? Because I do feel like Rallis has gotten that unit to overachieve with Jonathan Ganon. And we're giving him his flowers every Sunday. They've been fantastic. And they're going to get Darius Robinson back. Offensively, though, now it's like this should be the expectation where the Cardinals offense is putting up 26, 27, 28 points per game, especially get into some of the easier games on your schedule for Drew Petzing.
Yeah, I think – I don't know if I'm ready to say Drew Petzing next head coach, right? But I do think it's looked a lot better in recent. I mean, they must be top 10 in DVO. I haven't looked lately, but I'm sure if not top 10, they're just outside of it at minimum. I do think it has looked a lot better. Although there was a moment in this game where they were 4th and inches, and I was like, you bring in Clayton Tune. But he didn't do it, so.
Well, he's also got some Trey McBride runs in there, some jet sweeps.
Yeah,
for Trey McBride.
yeah,
love to
dude.
see that.
That guy, oh my God. I don't think he's slept on anymore because I feel like everybody this year has kind of like figured out how good he is, but he does something different every week that impresses me. Just like such a complete tight end. I mean, I do a pod every other week with Ben Solak, and we were just talking about him. I don't know. I guess we were previewing the game. And I was like, I don't want to say this, but he reminded me a little bit of Travis Kelce. And Ben said, I don't want to bring this up, but he reminded me a little of George Kittle. And I was like, we just touched the 2/3 rails of tight end comps, like comparing him to literally the 2 greatest tight ends post Gronk of our generation. But I love actually though, thinking about the fact that like he has qualities that are reminiscent of those players. I think that shows how complete he is because he's like obviously a vertical threat and a very good right runner, has tremendous hands and after the catch ability, but he also, he lines up in line. He lines up in the backfield. So, what a weapon he is.
Yeah, we have Brian Baldinger on this show, and, I wanted to kind of press him a little bit, like where he felt Trey McBride was as far as the tight ends in this league. And, Kelsey's, Kittle's, like that prestigious group. And he's like, as soon as he starts catching touchdowns, then we can do it. Like this was his first touchdown in the season outside of falling on a fumble. And I think I agree with that. Last question, Mina, like, I guess this is kind of routinely the final question every time you come on, but as we look at this NFC West landscape, the Cardinals, stand alone atop the division, as the schedule's thinning out, but the Rams are heating up, the Niners seem to be getting back on track. What's your feel on this Cardinals and what they have to do to maybe finish this job here in 2024?
I really wish they would add more pass rush. As of this recording, they've traded for Baron Browning, who I did really like him as a player before his injury. He's not been productive since then, obviously. But it's so clearly the missing piece on this team. And when you go up against teams like the divisional opponents, I believe this Cardinals offense can move the ball in any of those defenses. I think they can run the ball in any of those defenses. But I as much as I've said, hey, the defense looks competent, I am not entirely confident in their ability to rush the passer against any of those teams. So that's a very... I don't know if you guys saw Nate Silver dropping his 50-50 before the night before the election. That's my way of saying it's 50-50 in this division right now. But I really feel that way. Like I think any of these teams can beat the other. I worry about Christian McCaffrey returning for the San Francisco 49ers if I'm Arizona, because obviously that turns that team into a completely different animal on offense. But they're certainly competitive. And I think they can beat any of their divisional opponents as they already have.
Yeah, you just got to hope the Cardinals didn't look ahead and say, you know what, we're ahead of schedule. We don't need to make an investment for the now, but the now is here, and they're in first place. Mina, we appreciate the time. Check her out, the Mina Kimes podcast featuring Lenny, of course, on ESPN NFL programming. Mina, thank you for your time. Have a wonderful rest of your week.
Appreciate that. Go vote, Arizona.
We all silly like the mayor.